Hi, and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 20. Here we find an archetype that remains calm and present under all circumstances. It doesn't matter if the world outside is turbulent or chaotic. We're going to look at this archetype from a human design perspective and a Gene Key perspective. I'm going to start to share with you the Rave Mandala. So right now we have the Sun in Gemini in gate 20. We have the Earth in Sagittarius in gate 34. And the design part of the cross is the 55 in Pisces and the 59 in Virgo. And the cross in human design that we are looking at is the right cross angle of the sleeping phoenix. And for those of you that have studied the global cycles, you also know that as a collective, humanity is going into this cross, the cross of the sleeping phoenix, in 2027. So this is part of where we're going. And here it speaks, if we read it, it speaks about busyness. And this is one of the crosses that I like to explain it a little bit different. But I want to read to you the human design explanation. The energy you carry is about being busy. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You just know that being busy is what you need to be. There is a strong degree of individualism in this energy. And from that, you can derive strength or aloneness, joy or melancholy. You can be busy and happy, or busy and in your sadness. Finding the happiness is up to you. So we are speaking about the integration circuitry, and I'm going to show you more of that in the circuitry book. The integration circuitry, for me, I understand why it's about being busy. And 2034, if we go back, this is the main, you can say the main channel for the manifesting generator, is that direct connection from the sacral center to the throat center. And of course you have energy, sacral energy going right up to the throat. So it's going to manifest, it's going to be busy. But more than being busy, I would say it's not available for anything else. It's more like it's self-absorbed, you could say, and it's going about its own thing. It doesn't mean that it does things like a little, on a Duracell battery. That's not the thing with being busy. It's not necessarily running in a hamster wheel. It's just that it's not available because it's absorbed in its own process. That's what I would like to make clear there. And we are probably not, I'm not going to go into exactly the crosses, but you see that the right angle cross has the 55 and the 59. So spirit, freedom, and sexuality, intimacy are coupled with this cross. And that's also why it can be melancholic, or it can be happy, it can be warm, or it can be there. That's the energy that comes and work with the presence of the 20 and the sacral power of the 34. And then in the 4-1 profile cross of the now, you see we have the 34. There's a lot about community, and the 40, that is a lot about relaxation or divine will. So that's a different flavor of that cross. So if you have the 20 and one of these crosses, go into it and learn more about it. And also the left angle cross has the 30, the 37 and the 40, which is also that channel of community. So if you go right into the circuitry book, we are going to see the integration channels, which is what you see here in the illustration. So we have the 3420, and that's a channel, and that's what we saw right now in the cross of the sleeping phoenix. What you see is it's also combined, you can say, with a 10 and with a 57. So basically, when we look at this, we have the channel of awakening, the channel of charisma, the channel of power, the channel of perfected form. And then you could also see that we actually have two types of circuitry, because the 5720 and the 3410 are actually in the knowing circuit and the centering circuit respectively. So it's actually kind of complex, right? So what are the integration channels? I should probably post this also somewhere in the door. So it's the foundation of our biodiversity, and it represents the evolutionary force that separates us from our mammalian past. So it's actually it brings evolution through these channels that are self-absorbed. And they are the channels that formed as humans first began to walk upright. Thus, they represent our transition from being a mammal to becoming Homo erectus. And then it says the integration channels are what makes us selfish, therefore ensuring our individual survival. This again, it's about our individual survival, being absorbed with our own process. Selfishness is actually good for the genes, since we didn't look after ourselves first, our species. If we didn't look after ourselves first, our species would soon die out. People with definition in these channels are here to display self-love by putting themselves first. This is exemplified by I love myself 10 and I empower myself 34 by listening to my intuition 57 in the now. And let's go. I think this is so interesting. So I'm actually going to go over the rest of the text too. The integration channels are resolutely separate from the 6 basic circuits in the body graph. And unlike them, they are not concerned with communication. Their self-absorbed and self-centered nature is very different from the individual channels in the knowing and sensory circuits. They are not all concerned with how they impact others. They thrive simply by following their own paths through life. And I have the 34, 57 twice, both in design and personality. And I remember when I was studying my guide certification, and that's also what defines me as a sacral generator and connect me into the spleen, the intuition in the 57. And my teacher, John Martin, he was saying, you're just here to be very egoistic. You're just here to care about yourself. That's the first thing. That's the first channel, the first keynote defines you, that generator aura. And it comes from this integration channel, and you have it twice. So it's both your soul and your personality in a way. And that took a while for me because I have my incarnation cross in the G center. I have also the 46. I have this cross with the Sphinx, and then I also have the 46 and the 25 in my G center. So my G center is super, super defined. And then this is actually what defines my inner authority and my Archetype. And that is what almost I had to come back to. And that's what I often see with people that are not first starting in their inner authority in the way that they operate in the world. And that often creates some kind of dissonance in us. So it says people with these channels often have an animal quality to them that is rooted in an ancient impulse for survival. The theme of their life has nothing to do with planning for the future or reflecting on the past, and that's sometimes what I feel with a 57, that it's just in the now, and I don't care so much about the future. I'm very optimistic. I have the 13, so even if I've listened to a lot of difficult things in my life, I always have, it always seems like I'm optimistic about the future. And maybe because I don't even see the future, I don't see things going down in a downward low. I actually just feel if I'm okay now, and then that's what informs me. So these people are here to live in the now, and this is a survival instinct rooted in what was the noise over there? Am I safe? Will it eat me? And the most complex connective circuitry in design, the integration channels give rise to a complexity of voices and potential action. They are, after all, the only true existential voices we have. So here you see all the voices that they give, that they express. So I am now, I am myself now, I know I am myself now, I know I am myself in action now, I am myself in action now, I know I am in action now, I know I am now, I am in action now. And this is why with human design, I'm so fascinated about the mechanics, right? We know that from the 4 gates and the different combinations of them. So this is, for me, this is maybe because I have this so strong, but I am really, really fascinated by this. And it also becomes very existential. Like I was saying, if you only focus on the now, are you ever concerned with what comes after? And how do you make long-term decisions? Like in a world where we're pushed to make long-term decisions, how to do that if this is what you're rooted in, right? And how can the world, like how to even take that pressure in when that's not where you're based? It's like it becomes not normal. Like this world kind of creates a false way of operating. And that's why human design is so amazing. Come back to your inner authority. Don't take the pressure of what you're supposed to do. And Richard Rudd, in this book of circuitry, also in the beginning, he speaks about the fluid type. I think it's maybe not in this book, but it's one of the human design books that he wrote before he created the gene keys. And he speaks about the sacral authority as the fluid type. So like you are based in that sacral flow where you are, and you're not here. You are actually not here to be in any other way. That's the right way of operating. And I wanted to also speak about some of the key notes. So what we call this archetype is the Tranquil. So the archetype is really, let's see, where do I want to go? Let's go to the body graph again. So we are speaking about the 20, and the 20 is in the throat, and we call it the Tranquil because, like I said in the beginning, it doesn't get disturbed, it doesn't get perturbed by anything around it. It has that centeredness, it has that presence, and it stays in that. That's the archetype expression, right? That's when we're in the gift frequency, we could say, speaking gene key language. So what are some of the keywords for this archetype? So the keywords would be the eternal now, contemplation, instantaneous clarity or action. It's about trusting in the divine order. It's about awareness, self-assurance, presence. And if we look in the archetype way at what could be the Achilles heel, what could be the weakness, it's kind of difficult to see others' problems, because it's so rooted in the now and it's so in presence. So it doesn't really conceptualize other people's problems. And as we saw in integration circuitry, it's so much about just here and not so much about others. And then you could, of course, go into, again, a more philosophical viewpoint of, okay, what if you have a line 4, 5, or 6? What if you're transpersonal? Does that change, right? And I'm not going to go in. This is probably going to be longer than usual, so I'm not going to go into that. And then it could appear lazy or detached, because actually not really caring about the past or the future. And then this is another thing. Maybe if it's just a 20 without the sacral, for example, without the splenic, without the G, it's kind of words, right? It's a lot about words because it's a throat gate. So that's why it needs its counterparts for the action. So maybe it's more about words than action when it's alone. But this integration circuit needs its friend. Therefore working together, like you could see in all these expressions, all these voices. So yeah, I feel, and here we also have Gemini. So it is mutable. And that's maybe why it's always happy, because it kind of adapts, right? Gemini can adapt. It's mutable to circumstances and reevaluate, you could say. So where do we go from here? I guess where we go is that we're going to go into more the gene key language. So now we're spoken about mechanics. We're spoken about how the energy moves in the body graph and the incarnation cross. So here we go into a more poetic language almost. Then we are also connecting it back to the I Ching, which is important because that's the elements, the going back to the trigrams that are making up the hexagrams, which are the gates and the gene keys. So still here we can see that there is an incarnation cross structure. We see the gate that is on the opposite side, which is 34. So here we have, when we speak about the gene keys, like if you have seen our other videos, it's always about, it's a frequency band. So it is about we divide it in 3 frequencies, but of course it's like a rainbow and it's color like going into each other. It's not like it's a complete, it's really a band. So the lower frequency here is superficiality and force. And I would, to really understand superficiality, I will go into, looking at the patterns of the shadow, like the repressive and the reactive. Either you're repressing or you're reacting outwards when you have the low frequency, to really understand what we mean here with superficiality, which is being absent or being hectic. So go into, in the door, you can, inside the 20th door, you go down to gene key shadow patterns and you read about what it is to be absent, what it is to be hectic. And you see that it also has to do with the 34 and that forcing. And then we can actually also look at the spectrum to get a little bit more clarity. Well, this doesn't give that much, the insect evolution, but if you look at the art that we have for the 20th, you're going to see the bee, and you're gonna more understand what that means. And of course, read the Gene Key book. There you have everything. And then we have self assurance that has to do with relaxation. So being centered, being present, being relaxed, whatever is going on around you. Are people wearing masks? What is happening around you? No toilet paper in the store. Even in the more interpersonal, like in relationship, can you remain calm when somebody gets triggered, by you, or when you get triggered by something? Like that, it's not that you don't have emotions anymore, it's not that things don't happen in you, but it has this quality of remaining present and even being the observer of your own emotions, of your own triggers, of your own shadow. I would say that's the self-assurance. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if I have this surge of emotions that maybe are taking me back to trauma, can I still be present with it? Can I observe it? Can I be so big so I can hold it, so it can start to transform in me? Which is when Richard speaks about contemplation, he doesn't speak about meditation and just kind of going up somewhere and being in spirit. Contemplation is to be in it, to sit with it, to be that big, to be that self-assured, so that you can actually hold whatever is coming up, whatever is triggered in you. That's the gift frequency. And that's a very big task in a way. And as human beings, as we are expanding our awareness, we are able to encompass more, to embrace more. And then the highest frequency is that present. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what faces me. It doesn't matter what shadow is coming up inside of me. So when I speak about the environment, I'm not only speaking about the chaos around you and what might happen right now in society, or what might happen in relationship with others. I'm speaking about relationship with self and your emotional environment that you sit in. Are you able to be self-assured even when your anger comes up, when your fear comes up, when all these negative emotions come up? Are you able to be self-assured? Are you there for yourself present? That's really beautiful. There's a sacredness. There's a sacred octave. Can you hold that octave even when all these things are shaking your system? So contemplation is the I Ching word, wind over earth. So when we go to that, we can see here, and this is actually wrong. I find a typo, because as you see here, we have the 57, wind over wind, and here we have earth over earth, but that dislocation, orientation, and clarity, and unity. So this is the 52 instead of the 2 on the top. So this is how, when you know the geometry of things, it's actually really easy to like, take it apart and understand what the geometry is. So here we have the 20 that is built of 2 trigrams, or 1 trigram of wind, and one trigram of earth. And listening to the whispering wind, respond to life with complete trust. So that's that divine trust. Even when it feels whatever it feels like, it's still I can still trust it. And you can see that it has a lot of the 2 in there, because that's when we spoke about it 2 weeks ago, and when Richard speaks about in his audio contemplations, like trust everything, trust fear, trust whatever is going on. And then we have that intuition in the 57 as well, which is feminine, and in itself is the wind, is the gentle. So I really love, I guess the vocation for me is the 57, and the life's work is the 2. So this is made up of 2 of my most important activations. I guess that's why I'm smiling and speaking about this with so much enthusiasm. Astrology, mutable air. So curiosity and play, the trickster, the magician, and it's inquisitive. Like it really is curious. It wants to know. Integral human design. So we're looking here at all these beautiful channels. So awareness, charisma, intelligence. But here's even more. Here, go in and again contemplate this existential frequency bands, because it's really part of our existence, and it has to do with evolution. It has to do with humanity. So I would love to go into them, but I'm not going to make that long of a video. But this is integral human design integral human design integration circuitry. There is something important here that is shown. Dream arc, fly, skunk, and crane. This is where I would say go into Jane Addams' blog. She has amazing art every week, every transit for these for the frequency band. And also she includes the she includes information about the crystal, the minerals, amber in this case. And then we also have the palm mudra, and this is the same thing. So now I'm actually going to take you into Jane Addams' blog. So here we have, you can see the eternal now. That it is that it looks like that meditation, but actually I would say it's more about the present and a contemplation to really sit there and stay with it. So if you can use that as an embodiment practice every day, I feel like you would be more centered and present in the now, and also to include the breath, because that's what I feel with the mudras. When I include the breath together with the mudra, that's when I feel it in the body. So I wanted to go into some of the contemplation questions that you can use this week. And more than anything, it's really about that present, to notice this week, when are you present, and when are you losing that present, and using exactly what we're saying now, the breath. When your breath is not, when you are not breathing, when you're not feeling your breath, when you're not oxygenating your body, when you're not feeling the breath going in and connecting with your body, when you're disconnected, then that 20 is not there. And some of the other questions that you could ask yourself, what are the ways of relaxation that you have in your life and that you're finding, and are you actively seeking for relaxation in your life? And how do you feel when you're not doing? Do you know how it is to not be busy, and how does that feel on the inside? And maybe are you busy without the direction? And that's a little bit the nature of the 20, to not need a direction. But maybe there's somewhere in your life where you actually are longing for direction, but you're too busy in your hamster wheel, so that you're not actually finding that. And then Richard Rudd's book on the art of contemplation, that pausing, pivoting, and merging. I mean, that's for me, it's tantric practice too. It has a lot to do with that ability to sit, to be present with whatever comes up, and to catch yourself, to give yourself those pauses for things to kind of click, for things to maybe change. That's a beautiful book to start reading in this transit. And well, it's also that when you go off from the present moment, it's usually either the past or the future that is pulling you. And also in relationship, are you holding yourself, or are you becoming codependent with the other? Are you able to hold your own emotions? Are you able to holding yourself, or are you expecting the other one maybe to hold you? So look at your relationships and look at that internal presence, and the responsibility you take for that, and your own emotions. And yeah, I think, and also maybe it is the week to start a new sense of meditation practice, or breath work, or something that takes you back to the here and now, and allows you to do that pause where new possibilities are coming into your field. So I'm wishing everybody a really good transit in Gene Key and Gate 20, and I'll see you next transit. Thank you.